Hello and welcome to Thought for Thursday. This is the segment of Leveling Up the Podcast where we come to you on Thursday evenings for all of 15 minutes, hitting a topic that's near and dear to your heart, chances are, because we focus on the things that are pain points that revolve around reinvention. We bring you the topic for all of 15 minutes on Thursday nights. And when you leave after 15 minutes, you will have five tools that are geared towards addressing whatever our topic, whatever the dilemma is, whatever the problem is that needs resolution. We will give you five tools to utilize in doing that before you leave us. So, tonight we're talking about self care and how important it is to ensure that you are not pouring from overflow, which would not be so bad, but there comes a time when you have to really kind of make sure that you are filling your cup before you can pour into others. And I know that that is an analogy that you have heard before. However, I want to focus on that tonight and let that be our theme for what I'm talking about in driving home the fact that self care really does involve the overflow principle. That is pouring from a full cup. Because if your cup is half empty and you're trying to give even a portion of that to someone else, I guarantee you, you are going to come up depleted. So, have you ever noticed that what happens when you keep pouring from a cup that's already empty, nothing really comes out, does it? If you have an empty cup and you're trying to fill that cup, or you're trying to fill something from that cup and it's empty, what is going to go into that vessel that you're trying to pour into? Absolutely nothing. You can shake it, you can tilt it, you can stretch it, but the truth is, you just can't give what you don't have. And it's very important for you to keep that thought in mind because often we are determined that we are going to give, realizing or not realizing that we have no more to give. And what we're giving, we're actually operating on off of fumes, off of the aroma of what may have been in that cup, but certainly not the content of what was in the cup. So, why is it that we keep trying to pour into families, into careers, into communities, and dreams when we haven't poured into ourselves first? That's what I want us to think about in this talk tonight. And that is why I brought it up as a topic because it is crucial. It is a vital piece of what it is that we need to do when we're changing our lives, when we're changing anything about life. We have to realize the role that self-care plays in that. And this is why I'm calling it the overflow principle, because reinvention really does require you to prepare and to operate from overflow, not depletion. Again, it requires you to operate from overflow, not depletion. All right. So there are a few things that I refer to as the trap of empty pouring. All right. And we already talked about how you're not going to get anything out of an empty cup. Too often we as women live in an empty cup mode. Well, what do I mean? We say yes to everyone else while whispering, to ourselves, or whispering no to ourselves. We show up for work, we show up for things in the community, we show up for family, we show up with excellence in those things, but drag ourselves really through the day exhausted. We chase goals, and we do that with passion, but neglect the care that is really necessary and the rhythm that really keeps us whole. So that is the trap of empty pouring. All right. And what's the result? Burnout, resentment, watered down. We kind of water down our version of the woman that we're called to be because we're only giving what is left towards being that person that we're called to be. So, why is it then that reinvention needs overflow? I mean, we've kind of been talking about that already, right? Because it's not just about changing what we do, it's really about transforming how we live for many of us. For many of us, we have never really focused at all on self care, much less kind of fine tuning what we do for self care. For many of us, we have just got to put a plan and process, period. We've got to enact something so that we can be in a position where we can be filled and not depleted. Why is that beneficial? Well, when your cup is full, you can think clearer, okay, and make better decisions. You can show up with confidence because you've cared for yourself properly. You can model reinvention to others, even because you are now in a position where you can actually contribute to somebody else because you are filled and you can pour because you have some room to give. So you can show others, you can prove really that it's possible to thrive without burning out. But in order to do that, of course, that means that you have to have some peace. You have to have clarity. You've got to have that energy that spills into everything around you. That's critical. It is absolutely critical. All right, so now we're at the point where I'm going to give you 5 things, 5 tools that you can use to make sure that you are pouring properly, to make sure that you have something to pour, all right, to pour into yourself so that you can do more, so that you can be that person that you've been talking about, so that you can invent or reinvent whatever it is that you desire to change about life, that you desire to change in life. So that will have that foundation, that core. I always talk about the core things that you need in order to make changes in your life. Health is one of those things. In order to be healthy, you have to ensure that the self care is in place. So, are you starting to see how all of this flows and moves in motion? I certainly hope so. All right, so let me give you the 5 tips, the 5 things that are going to help you to be sure that you're pouring from overflow, that you're operating from a place of overflow. What are some of those things? Well, one is your morning pour in. Your morning pour in. Start each day by making sure that you're filling yourself. That's prayer, that's meditation, that's journaling. That could be a quiet walk, quiet time to yourself, a quiet, just sitting in at the kitchen table, slowing down long enough to enjoy breakfast, perhaps with nothing around you playing at all, but in silence so that you can hear yourself think. How often do we move so much in noise that we can't hear ourselves think? Start out properly with that morning pour in, all right? Make that morning pour something that's going to substantially fill your cup. What else? Make sure that you've got your boundaries in place. It's something that we frequently talk about. Every week, kind of ask yourself, what's draining me? What's feeding me? And adjust your boundaries so that your cup stays protected. How many of you have had a cup where you've had it absolutely brimming and overflowing? You may start your morning out right and that cup be brimming to the top and overflowing. But as you walk and you're unstable, that content that's in the cup starts to spill over. And it's not spilling over in a good way. It's kind of spilling over into kind of the waste category, and you're not having a time to, or the time to partake from what's inside of that cup before you have to kind of take what's outside. And we all know what's inside is going to stay, for example, if it's a hot beverage, it's going to stay warm longer than it will if it pours over onto that saucer, right? Well, it's important that you protect that cup sometimes. You may have to slow down your pace, all right, so that when you're walking, it doesn't spill over. You may have to put something on top of it so that when you walk, it doesn't spill over. It's important for you. And in that sense, we're talking about putting up those boundaries so that that cup doesn't spill, so that that overflow doesn't happen before that cup is filled. What else? You have to make sure that you're getting proper hydration and nourishment. All of that is critical. All of that feeds into how you operate. That feeds into how you think. It feeds into your energy so that you can properly think. All right. It feeds into how you operate, how you move. It determines if you're getting to places on time. If you're depleted and tired and you haven't nourished and hydrated properly, it will lead to fatigue. That fatigue will cut the time that or decrease your level of energy so that you can make it to places where you need to be on time. It all works in unison. It all works in motion, doesn't it? So make sure that you are staying properly hydrated. Make sure that you are getting the proper amount of rest that you need. Your physical health directly impacts your ability to overflow. And remember, you want to be at a place where you can overflow. What else? Make sure that you're resting and refilling. Well, I just talked about that, right? Make sure that you're resting. Schedule rest like it's a non-negotiable meeting. All right? You do not want to get to the point where your body requires that you have to stop. You want to do that before it requires it because your body doesn't always tell you in the nicest way that it's time to stop. Frequently, your body will just stop on you, right? Or an illness will pop up or some other kind of emergency, which will tell you you must stop. Well, you want to do what's necessary before your body throws up that emergency signal. You don't want to be in a place where your body is really kind of dictating what you can and can't do. It's negatively dictating what you can and can't do. You want your body to positively reflect what you're capable of and positively help you in getting to where you want to be and in doing the things that you want to do. The last thing is make sure you celebrate. All right. That is a mental thing as well as a physical thing, as well as reinforcement. Celebrate your wins, even the small ones. And I say this frequently as one of the tools that we use because so often we either beat ourselves up because we feel that we should be doing better. Or we just don't feel that we are worthy of the celebration. So, for that reason, I frequently tell us about it. Gratitude and joy are really like it's really like adding fuel or adding fresh water to your cup. Let's think of it that way. And that way, it really helps you to keep the overflow going. It helps you with the energy and it gives you the hope that's necessary. All right. So, the five things that you need, the tools that are going to help you to make sure that you are operating from overflow, making sure that you're pouring in the morning, making sure that you're doing your boundaries, you're protecting that cup, making sure that you're hydrated and nourished and getting your proper rest and celebrating things. Going ahead and giving that extra juice that's needed to make sure that you're moving and operating optimally. All right. So, reinvention doesn't happen by squeezing out the last drop of your energy. Okay? It'll never happen that way. You're starting to pull things in the opposite. It's surely not going to change for the better. So it happens when you're prioritizing filling up your cup. So, and filling it so much so that it runs over. That's what you want to do. So this week, I know we're at the end, but even in the next few days, I invite you to just stop pouring from that empty cup and start living from the overflow because when you care for yourself, everything you touch is really going to benefit from it. It's going to benefit from the abundance of it all. All right. So that's it. I want you to go out intentionally work on making sure that you are preparing to flow from the overflow. I always tell you, if you need some help in any of these areas, and stay tuned for a program that is I'm rolling out. Make sure that you reach out to me and just text the word more to 240-789-4299. I'll make certain that you get the information that you need. Now go, live boldly as yourself. Live in your authenticity, knowing that who you are and what you have to offer, we need. Touch something with your imprint to make a difference for yourself, to make a difference for those around you. Promise yourself and make sure that you do something today that's going to enable you to operate from overflow and not be depleted. And until I see you next time, ensure that you're doing all that you can to be well.